and then as many as 19 firearms. He had to have at least 20 to 30 magazines fully loaded. I mean, that's very intricate planning. And to me, you look at this guy, this looks like just another pharmaceutical drug head, a guy that's probably not in his right mind. Like you said earlier, Rob, a guy that probably is triggered by the fake news liberal media. I don't think that they have that wherewithal about them. I don't think that they have the brain capacity to plan something that intricately. And if they do, I mean, we're looking at something totally different here.
We are live, and it's a sad day at the War Room, especially when innocent Americans are gunned down by one lone nut, or maybe more than one lone nut. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Rob Dew. Joining me is Michael Zimmerman. We also have on the phone Owen Schroyer, the regular full-time host, who is just getting back from vacation. And Owen, if you're there, what a way to come back into the United States to the largest mass shooting in history. What's your first reaction upon hearing this news?
Well, it was actually wild the way the whole thing went down. I mean, first I leave, and a bunch of NFL players decide to kneel, something that's right up my alley. But then when I was flying overnight, I was flying through the night, so I didn't even know what happened. And then I land at the airport, and I'm getting blown up with text. I'm getting blown up on Twitter. I'm looking at Drudge with like 30 different red links covering it. And, of course, it's all the Las Vegas shooting. And, you know, like Jack and Lucian were talking about in the fourth hour, you know, it's easy to kind of be reactionary to this stuff. It's easy to kind of have information overload. And it's tough sometimes to kind of just sit back and wait and try to discern what's happening. But I think that right now, to me, I think that we have kind of a couple elements at play here. I do think that it does appear that this was another left-wing nut job, much like the guy that went out and shot Steve Scalise, waited outside the YMCA till he could shoot up Republican members of Congress.
And Owen, they're basically the same age. One was 66 and one was 64. Yeah. So they're coming from the same age group. And
they kind of look the same, too. But, again, this one obviously was something I think there was a lot more to it. I mean, they're reporting now that they recovered as many as 19 weapons from the scene. It's a lot easier to shoot into a crowd of people and hit a bunch of targets, whereas Steve Scalise obviously was unfortunate to be the one guy that suffered the worst of the wounds when Hodgkinson decided to go crazy at the baseball practice there. But, however, when you look at this and you look, okay, 19 weapons, Drudge Report just linked to a story saying it went on for 72 minutes. I mean, it really just scratches my head, Rob. I mean, those are the two things that scratch my head. One, how is he able to shoot for so long? I mean, this is a crowded hotel. This is a crowded Vegas Strip. How could nobody identify where these shots were coming from? Did nobody hear the gunshots in the hotel? Would he rent 3 entire floors to himself so nobody had any idea where it was coming from?
Well, I tell you, Owen, when watching and listening to these clips, you hear multiple, it sounds like multiple reports. You hear what sounds like multiple shooters. In fact, I have video of eyewitnesses who were there when the shooting happened, and they're saying multiple shooters, multiple shooters. So I think it was unclear where the shots were coming from. And they were across the street, a good 150 yards away.
Right, and even to that point, you know, you got to take into consideration, again, this is Vegas. I mean, there's lights everywhere. There's noises everywhere. You know, you really don't know what's going on. I think that kind of had an added element. If you look at the first moments of when it happened, you know, everyone's kind of looking around like, okay, wait, what's going on? Was that part of the show? Was that a firework? You know, is this really a shooting? And then I'm sure that, you know, it just continued and it kind of obviously sounded like an automatic weapon. And then I'm sure that people actually started to see people getting hit. I mean, so many people were injured. So it's really amazing to me, though, that you see this happening and the immediate response from the left-wing politicians is, oh, it's the gun's fault. It's the gun's fault. Well, you know what? Yeah, maybe there's a problem here where this guy illegally had a firearm. Obviously, he didn't legally obtain these firearms, and that's the point. They don't even understand. It doesn't matter what laws. There's already laws in place to keep nut jobs from getting guns. They can still get their hands on weapons. That's what we saw happen in Vegas. So it doesn't surprise me that we see the political left immediately jump on the gun control thing, jump on gun control legislation. But my worry, Rob, and we were talking about this earlier, my worry is that, you know, we already saw Hodgkinson do it in Virginia. Now we see this, maybe it was one guy, maybe it was two guys, maybe four guys. I mean, who really knows? You know, we're still trying to absorb all the information. I mean, 19 weapons. They're saying it happened for over an hour. I've read as many as 400 plus people injured. I mean, this is a pretty serious event. I mean, if that's one guy doing it, okay, maybe that's possible with an automatic weapon. Maybe that's possible if he's got, 30 magazines or 40 magazines ready to go and he had the whole thing planned. But this took some planning too. I mean, let's recall, this is a concert. I don't know when this concert got scheduled. I don't know when they started selling tickets or when they announced that this concert was going to happen. But obviously this person knew that there was going to be a concert. They assumed that they could get to this high point and fire into the crowd of people and injure as many people as possible. So it was a well-coordinated event, which, I'm sorry, a left-wing nut job usually isn't that well-coordinated. I mean, look at James Hopkinson, for example. He
just showed up, basically.
Multiple people. Yeah.
Well, he read it in the paper where they were practicing. That kind of tipped him off where he should go.
Yeah, that was
but
the New York
I want to
Times.
get to a couple things real quick, Owen. One, stricter gun laws would have not predicted the Las Vegas shooting. This is from Law and News. And they're basically saying if he had fully automatic weapons, he would have had to purchase them and register them prior to 1986, May 19th, because after that time they were banned. So
the manufacturer of new ones. So you can purchase one now, but all of those are $25,000 or so.
Exactly. They're almost collector's items.
Exactly.
And so if he made a modification to it, it was an illegal weapon. So whatever he did, he was breaking the law regardless of what he did.
Right, exactly. No,
But
exactly.
I do want to go, guys, get the two clips of the multiple shooters, and let's play those real quick so people can hear that, because these are people on the ground right after the incident, and here's what they had to say.
We were the furthest VIP stages away from Mandalay Bay, and they were ricocheting everywhere where we were. So they were firing from somewhere high, and they were unloading clip after clip after clip after clip.
So there is a shooter, you believe?
Multiple shooters.
Multiple shooters.
Multiple shooters. It has to be.
We thought it was fireworks, and then it just didn't stop. And I'm like, Debbie, that's not fireworks. And then people started running, and we asked what was going on, and they said it was a shooter, and then we realized it sounded like machine guns. It sounded like more than one machine gun, and it just didn't stop, like 30 minutes.
And personally, I think you can attribute a number of these things to the whole fog of war that you see when disasters are happening or when crises like this are happening.
I was listening to him from...
a lot of these people probably have never experienced live gunfire, so...
Right, especially not at them.
Their eyes were deceiving them. But again, let's try to compare the two events here. Hodgkinson, obviously not the brightest guy, didn't have the most intricate planning, just went out to the ball field that he saw reported in the New York Times and decided he was going to try to shoot Republicans. This event was much more well-planned, at least the way it played out. Now, whether it was one guy that planned the whole thing or multiple people, that's the story that we're all, I guess, wanting to find out. But you're talking about renting a hotel room, knowing that the concert was going to go on, knowing what point to get the room at so you could have a shot, and then as many as 19 firearms. He had to have at least 20 to 30 magazines fully loaded. I mean, that's very intricate planning. And to me, you look at this guy, this looks like just another pharmaceutical drug head, a guy that's probably not in his right mind. Like you said earlier, Rob, a guy that probably is triggered by the fake news liberal media. I don't think that they have that wherewithal about them. I don't think that they have the brain capacity to plan something that intricately. And if they do, I mean, we're looking at something totally different here. I mean, we're just looking at an absolute psychopath who just wanted to murder a bunch of people for God knows what reason. But we're still waiting to find out. And it's just
his father was basically a bank robber.
It runs in the family. It runs in the family. He tried to kill police. Yeah.
So he may have had this already in mind to do this. Guys, I'm getting a bad delay in my ear.
But that's the question, guys. When did he rent the hotel room? I mean, those are records that someone has access to. When did this man rent the hotel room, and when was the concert announced? Those are two details I think that I would be looking into right now if I was a detective or in the Las Vegas Police Department, because that's where you can kind of start to stem your research from to find a motivation. I mean,
exactly. We're going to get more into this when we get back on the other side of the break. We're also going to look at some fallout. Some people are already getting fired over comments they're making. So this is getting real serious now. You can't just go out half-cocked and start throwing things out on Twitter in the middle of the night. Stay tuned. You're watching The War Room. I'm Rob Dew. We got Owen Schroyer and Michael Zimmerman.
Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. If you're interested in healthy thyroid, if you're interested in well-being, if you're interested in having a higher IQ, which this has been linked to, get your powerful Survival Shield X2 at InfoWarsStore.com.